So there's different categories, different ways to define someone who has came back to this planet for a purpose and has to wake up and realize that. This could be a person who was a shaman in a past life. This could be the standard. I also like the wanderer definition. I first came across that one of the first books I was led to read, which was actually by Dave Wilcox. And in one of those, he reprints a wanderer checklist that was, inspirational to him. And that was extremely inspirational to me. I came across that early on in my 3-year process that I've been going through. Maybe honestly, it's probably longer than that now. And I really identified with that because that's then consistent with another book I was led to read. Once you start your lessons, you're led just back to back. You're led to your research. I always bring up Kenneth Ring's Omega Project because the term wanderer, the term spirit worker, disassociative behavior in relation to Kenneth Ring's definition of people who are receptive to supernatural phenomenon. This is good to focus on this and take the wanderer checklist as a basic template for a list that you can observe and see if you can identify with. Synchronicities are one of the first things that will start to happen when you have a regular communication with your guides pre-initiation. This is before you're initiated. Anybody can start synchronicities. And the more research you do, the more dedication, the clearer it will get, and you will no longer need synchronicities to know that you can have correspondence with your angelic guides. I think it was the first night. There's all kinds of playful stories. I always say this is not entertainment, but there's a lot of playfulness when you're dealing with peaceful entities. And when you pass a certain test and you see a symbol, like some of those maps in the crop circles show you, those are actually phases for initiation, it'll get playful. And I found myself adding things to the wanderer checklist to the point where I came up with 2 or 3 more pages of my own stuff. And when you find out you're one of these wanderer characters, there may be different definitions. A person who is sent back on a spiritual mission. Just one second, let me turn here. It's also serious. This is serious business, because something I want to talk about is no privacy. It's very important. No privacy is more so important if you're a mystery teacher rather than a student, because it involves things like eventually it'll lead to celibacy. And I'm proud to say, very proud to say, that's one of the most proudest disciplines of my life is being celibate for about 13 years. Maybe it's almost 15. I don't know. I lost count. I have no desire for that type of stimulus gratification, just like I have no desire to do hard drugs. I briefly was into hard drugs like cocaine 20 plus years ago, about 24 years ago. And when it was over, it was over. And losing interest in recreational sex. Now, I will say that there's still room for actual meaning, like an actual serious relationship. I'm not against that, but recreational, I think that's something you're absolutely supposed to grow out of. The body, as you age, obviously can't handle that, and I think there's nothing sadder than seeing someone who is elderly and has all these perversions and they're grabby, and you can prevent that by deconditioning yourself from recreational sex, and to the point where the beauty of that, and this is taboo, I have no problem, I love talking about this because it makes people uncomfortable in a good way. Uncomfortable meaning like you should have no problems with these male or female stereotypical stereotypes. And so the good thing about deconditioning yourself from that is you're you're putting aside your animal instincts and saying, I want to evolve into a human, a more human. And of course, AI is stopping that dead in its tracks, and they're trying to revert us to some sort of automaton. But this is not an AI talk. This is a talk about extending your wanderer abilities. So I had taken LSD at a younger age once with the person I was with, and we were engaged in fornication. And at some point, we stopped and just started laughing. This was a breakthrough moment for me because it was so absurd. It's totally absurd to think that anyone needs to engage in fornication. And another breakthrough moment was when I was, I don't try to stay away from all violent material, but I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, even before I became a celibate, I was watching like a Forensic Files or something about these professionals, this doctor who arranged a murder for his wife, who was also a professional, just so he could be with some floozy, and it also makes me think about what exactly is the act, what is it, and if there's no love involved, deep true love, and it's a recreation, then it's just the same thing as an echo chamber, the same thing as taking a hard drug. You're finding a pathway to activate a stimulus gratification region of the brain, and you're being defeated. It's an addiction, and not even an addiction, it's just something you shouldn't be doing. And so light body, there's a significance to staying consistent with something for 10 years, and we've heard about 10 years being the time frame to where you can be approved by the universe to go through the light body experience. That's been calculated. I mean, it's been studied in India. 10 years of treating everyone as you would want yourself, assuming your moral landscape falls within the objective golden rule, meaning like you don't like getting smashed in the face and thinking that's pleasurable. Supposedly you treat everyone good for 10 years. Light body. So I argue that when you are celibate for 10 years, like I've been, you get automatic extended psychic / consciousness abilities that make your modern form of initiation easier, and you don't have to go through as much scary stuff. You're always going to have to go through something that we would consider scary when a mystery teacher is going through initiation. Let's go back to the Wanderer checklist. I got a couple of minutes here. Some other things I noticed when I was young. I went through a phase where I thought watching people eat was so weird. I couldn't even eat at the table. I couldn't handle watching people swallow food. It seemed so unnatural. And that totally makes sense now. I boycotted the Passion Play in 3rd grade. I actually wrote a book about all this stuff, which I can't publish. It's about 300 pages. I stopped at that. It's got a lot of references in the back. I just wrote it for my personal amusement, but I did include the story about the 3rd grade Passion Play. This is where 3rd graders at a Catholic school reenact the crucifixion of Jesus, and they're little kids chanting haunting things like, now come the nails, boom. There's a kid behind the curtain smashing down a book. They actually bring a child out and put him on a cross, and I thought that was absolutely insane. It was so insane that I refused to take part of it. This was when I was young. No one else. Everybody thought that was insane. Everybody, the teachers, the parents, not one person thought this was strange. I thought it was insane. Okay, again, wanderers see things a certain way that your average person will never be able to process, possibly in this lifetime. Another one was the disliking of sports due to a male stereotype. I was like, why am I supposed to like tossing an inflatable ball around? I'm not making fun of it. I'm saying it was just no interest. To this day, no interest. I would rather watch paint drying than watch sports. And these are things that I stood up for because they seem so unnatural. It seems so unnatural to be told you're supposed to like that. Those are all signs of a wanderer. There's something about you that's so different, that's made you a loner, Not a loner because you can't make friends, a loner because you want to be a loner. I'd go on and on about this.